Hello, my name is Tracy Schroyer, and I want to share my experience and what I've gone through so far to date with my breast cancer journey and experiences that I've had. And I'm a little late to the game as far as starting videos to talk about that. So I did want to start as of now and kind of go back and share some of that information with people and then continue my journey as I go along, sharing those experiences as well. So on December 26th, let me back up a little bit more. In early December of 2019, I was playing around on my health chart. They have an online that you can log into with Ohio Health. I'm in the state of Ohio. And I was looking around on my chart online, just happened to be on there, and there was a reminder to get a mammogram. And I remember, so I'm 42 right now, and I remember when I was in my mid 30s asking, it may have been even earlier than that, asking my gynecologist if I could get mammograms, start getting them much earlier than normal because of my family history of cancer, of different types of cancer. And at that time, there wasn't a strong enough evidence to support it, so did not move forward with that. I failed to remember when I turned 40 to start doing it. So I turned 42 in November 2019, saw that reminder on my online platform in early December and knew I was going to take a couple days off of work at the end of December. So decided to go ahead and schedule that very first mammogram of mine for December 26th. Little did I know what road that would take me on. I went in on December 26th. It's an office near Dublin Methodist in Dublin, Ohio, and went to do my mammogram. And it did not hurt at all. I know it depends on whether you're dense tissue or not. I thought maybe the size would impact it or not, but it's more whether you have dense tissue or not. It was not painful to go through it. I remember talking to the lady. She was very, very nice, a Jewish woman, and I have a good friend that is Jewish. And I was asking her like how things were going, and I knew Hanukkah was around the same time as Christmas and everything, and how their celebrations were going. And she did tell me afterwards. She said, "I want to let you know this is your first mammogram. They create a baseline. 9 times out of 10, you'll get a call back and they'll want to bring you back in to do an ultrasound to just make sure, everything's good if they see anything, just to kind of look at that." So I was actually expecting a call back from my mammogram. So that was not a surprise when I got a call back the next day. And they said that they believe that they found a mass on my right breast and they wanted to check it out a little bit further. So I got that call back the very next day. It was a Friday. I went in on New Year's Eve. It was a Tuesday, December 31st, 2019, to get my, actually, back it up a little bit. I went back the next day. I went back Friday, got the call back Thursday afternoon, went back Friday, had my ultrasound. Even then, I've heard so many people that have had biopsies, so I wasn't completely concerned. When the ultrasound tech came back in, it was a little alarming. The ultrasound tech came back in, and along with, I can't remember what his title was, radiologist that reads it, and the support navigator who I had met and kind of just, I, I don't even know if, yeah, I had met her before that. So all three of them come walking back in the room, and I'm laying on the, I was laying on the ultrasound table, and the radiologist was like, "We're really concerned. Like what we saw, we're really concerned." So in my mind, I'm still not, whether I was in shock or not processing or whatever it was, I was like, okay. So they said, "We want to bring you back for a biopsy." So I've heard so many people getting biopsies that didn't really, at that point, shock, phase me, whatever. So I said, okay, I made my appointment. And I actually went back. It was December 31st. It was New Year's Eve. Went back, and I actually had to go see it was whether I was a doctor or nurse practitioner. And I went to see the nurse practitioner in the same office building in a different suite and talked to her. She did uh, uh, self-exam or exam, hands-on exam And she even pointed out to me, she had told me, she said, based on the ultrasound, they are pretty positive it was cancer because the size of the mass, not only the size of it, but she said instead of it being a round mass, it looked like tentacles or something like that. So she said, we're going to go forward with the biopsy, but I just want to prepare you because we're pretty positive it is. And then she talked to me about genetics. And I have, like I had mentioned, I have a lot of cancer of different kinds in my family, more so on my father's side. Do have a little bit on my mother's side, but not a lot. And not a lot that was even hereditary. So I went in, I remember I left my appointment with that nurse practitioner and I walked down the hallway to get ready to go have my biopsy. And I remember I was alone because my mom was sick and my husband was sick. I had friends that offered to go with me, and I'm very strong, very independent. I'm fine. I got this. This is nothing. Like, it'll be good. But after that nurse practitioner told me that, all I could think was like just all these things, like I could die and, everything that goes through your head. So I went into the waiting room and there was nobody in the waiting room. There was just the admin or the receptionist at the front desk. And I sat down and I just busted out crying and just a million thoughts going through my head from hearing that. And the sweet receptionist went back and got the lady who was considered a patient navigator. And this lady comes walking out, this little old lady, and she said, come back in my office. And so I went back and I sat down in her office and just grabbing the tissues and crying and everything. And she said, I'm surprised that it took this long for you to, react and have this emotion. And I said, I just, I've heard so many people go through that in the past, so it didn't really faze me. And now it was just all hitting me. And so, she gave me hugs and she was just a sweetheart. And everybody knows I hate hugs, but I know there's a time and a place and you need them sometimes. So from there, I went back into the room. They did an ultrasound guided biopsy. And so the ultrasound tech, it was the same girl I had seen before, and she was holding the ultrasound over the area where the radiologist came in, and he took it. It looked almost like a pen, and they had prepared my breast and cleaned it and put some numbing stuff on it, and then he held this thing that was like a pen, and the tech had warned me that when he went to do something, he'd give me a warning because it would be like a loud popping sound. And it was when they were grabbing the samples and doing the biopsy out of the mass in my breast. And thankfully, my mass was actually closer to the front of my skin. Some people have masses that can be farther in or closer to the chest wall. Mine was further out. So it wasn't too difficult for them to locate and then for him to capture. And I want to say it was between 6 and 8 times that thing snapped that he grabbed pieces of it. And the whole time he was over here doing that, and the ultrasound tech was on the other side and had the screen up, and I was watching it so I could see that needle go in. And some people are, queasy and everything, but I was able to watch it, and I just thought, oh my God, this is just amazing, medically and technology, what they can do. So I was watching that, and I remember the nurse telling me, or the ultrasound tech telling me that, they were putting this numbing stuff on me. And I was like, well, I didn't really feel when they were doing the biopsy and taking the samples. I couldn't feel anything on there, but I didn't feel numb either. And she had told me it was kind of like the Novocaine you get when you go to the dentist. And it was funny because after he had taken what he needed and he got his stuff ready and he walked out, she kind of cleaned me up and just got that prepared for me to go. I sat up and I was sitting there for a couple minutes or so, and I was like, oh my God, like I could all of a sudden feel it and feel that numbness. And I remember I had to, after that, immediately go and get a mammogram, because what they do, and they told me this beforehand, is they put a titanium clip. It's very, very, very tiny. They put that in the mass. It will either stay with you forever if it's nothing. Say the cells came back and it was not cancerous, they would just leave it in there. There's no harm. You're not going to set off any detectors, anything like that. You just have this little clip. And then when they do future mammograms, they know that's what it was. They had already tested it. So if they see it again, unless there's something noticeably different, they're not going to do anything specifically for it. But then if you go in and you have surgery, that helps guide them towards where it is when they go to do the surgery, depending on, regardless of whether you get a lumpectomy or a mastectomy or anything like that. So they have that in there. So what they do is they do the mammogram because it shows them through the mammogram to confirm that the clip is in there and kind of the location and everything like that, so that they can track that. So I went in there, I did the mammogram. Everybody I came across, nurse, techs, radiologists, doctors, everybody was amazing, was very awesome, very empathetic being in that field. And so afterwards, the nurse walked me over to the little waiting area, and they had the dressing rooms in there. And she walked me into the dressing room and she said, "I'm going to help you." She said, "I have this thin little ice pack to put on there, the spot where you had the biopsy done, because it will be, it might hurt and ache a little bit, and that'll help if there's any swelling or anything." So she actually came into the dressing room with me. And I tell you what, by that time, I had only had, I've seen my gynecologist every year and gotten breast exams there and done self exams. And just from the, all the couple appointments that I had at that point, it was kind of like threw off my robe when she came in and helping me put the taping the ice pack onto me and get my bra on and everything. And she was kind of funny because she went to walk out the door and she went to open it. She turns around and I'm just standing there still with this ice pack taped on me and half of my bra on, and my big old boobs just hanging out. And she's like, "Cover yourself up, I'm opening the door." So we both laughed, and I covered myself up. She walked out, I got dressed and everything. But what is interesting is I do remember leaving, and I went to just make sure I didn't have to do anything else. It was basically when I met with that nurse practitioner prior to the biopsy, her and I talked, and I was straight up with her, and I said, "I need to know on the phone. I don't want you to tell me I need to come into the office to find out good or bad or anything." And she promised that as soon as she had the results, she would call me, let me know good or bad, anything like that, and not make me come in. So that was very, very helpful for me, knowing that it wouldn't be that dreadful phone call where you have to come in and you don't know what's going on and anything. So, but I do remember when I walked out to leave that office, it was still right. So that was New Year's Eve. They had stockings hung up in their waiting area, and they had pink stockings and red stockings. There was a pink stocking that said Tracy. It's spelled exactly like my name is spelled. And I took a picture of it because I remember sending that to my mom. And I think I actually did that at the ultrasound because I didn't know at that point that it was likely cancer. And I sent that to my mom, and I was like, "Look, they spelled my name right and everything." And so it was just for the people that worked in the office. They had their little stockings hung up. But now when I look back at my phone and I see that picture, it's like, oh, it feels like an eerie sign, I guess, to me. Um, so from there, I got the call from the nurse practitioner, and I will tell you about that in the next video. Thanks for watching.